I'm interested, as we think about, we're about to get a ton of media coverage on it being the anniversary. So, lead the charge. It's an anniversary since SVB really showed and poked holes in some of the bank's ultimate business models here. Have we fully recovered? Have startups fully recovered? Are people learning from this?
I do think that startups are recovering. I do think the banking system is looking a bit healthier than it was a year ago. And I think what we've learned from it is that for payments, for banking, the things that are systemically important to running this economy, whether it's the American wallet, small businesses, commerce, we get to a point where relying on a single financial institution is no longer sufficient. I think SVB's collapse highlighted that even banks of a certain size carry risk. And so what we're seeing with our customers and the way we operate at Orum is this opportunity to work with tier one financial institutions, systemically important banks. And at Orum, we now have recently reached a milestone where we connect directly to the Federal Reserve Bank as a service provider, which means that we're delivering on the complete promise of instant payments. And for us, that means our customers who work with us for payments, and in a lot of cases faster payments, are in a position to have all of the benefits of lower cost, no downtime, smart, efficient routing, and access to all Federal Reserve Bank transfer rails, in addition to a portfolio of notable banks that we work with in the tier one category, thus providing that resiliency and redundancy that needs to kick in the event that there is something unexpected in the financial institution space.
It does seem, though, that we've ended up with leaning ever more on the too big to fail institutions. I mean, we think about it being the ghost of the past, of talking about Silicon Valley Bank collapse, but we're still confronted by commercial real estate being an issue. We think of New York Community Bank Court that just got in $1 billion injection. Have you felt that people are reticent to work with the smaller banks? Have you had to say, look, we are with just the tier ones now?
It's interesting. I actually think that community banks, local banks, they do play a very big role and an important role in how we think about what's going on in financial services. At Orum is the simplest API for fast, reliable payments and instant bank account verification. It's important that we work with and offer services to all size and scale of banks. How we provide those services is diversified. And I do think that there is something to be said for working with smaller banks who can provide certain types of independent variables. Some of them have very discrete protections under Durbin regulation and other areas that provide higher interchange rates, things that are very good for fintechs, for example. We're building in the innovative sort of economy, but to have a single point of failure in any system, setting aside that it's financial services, is generally a risk. And companies, I think, are more eyes wide open to the fact that having that risk is something that isn't as worth taking as it once was.
Concentration risk, I think, was the lesson from Silicon Valley's collapse, right? And changes were made. People were open-minded, as you say, to using multiple service providers. Has that made the market you operate in more competitive?
Absolutely. I mean, I think what we hear from our customers and where we are often brought in to work with somebody in the payments ecosystem for our products is at a scale in which a company says it's no longer a good idea to work with one bank or just with a single payment processor. And so we are hearing from every part of the market, emerging companies all the way to scaled financial services, software and technology companies, that it's important to be able to diversify payments and banking traffic. And so yes, we do see more and more financial companies that work with us have multiple bank accounts, which we absolutely think is a great idea. And two, that they're working with a company like Orum who can automate the process of how payments operate on the back end. It is 2 weeks or less to integrate to our API for fast, reliable payments, which gets you RTP, FedNow, ACH, same-day ACH wires, all orchestrated. And it's usually 2 years to go directly to a bank. And so diversification is a very hard problem. Multi-rail, multi-bank orchestration is also a very hard problem, and it's very high cost. So what we want to do is sit in the middle of this ecosystem so that software companies, technology and financial services companies have the benefit of diversification. They don't get stuck with concentration, but they don't also have to spend 2 years and $2 million achieving that when they can work with us in essentially a sprint or less of technology work.
Stephany, what data do you have about the financial health of those customers that you onboarded in the wake of Silicon Valley Bank's collapse?
Well, what we
1
see,
year on.
a year later, what I'm seeing is just a big comeback, right? In a lot of ways, the venture capital market, the stock market, lots of things are showing signs of optimism. And for us, that is also a very optimistic part of beginning 2024 with this new Deliver product that we can offer to folks who are in growth mode. Connecting directly to Orum and directly to the Federal Reserve Bank means delivering on the instant payment promise. and furthering our vision and helping our customers with delivering on time to value, right? Time to money is a very hard problem to solve for small businesses. And you think about wage payout, insurance claims payouts, you think about logistics and factoring and trucking, what runs our economy. And you think that most settlement has historically been 5 days on ACH, and now it can be 24/7, 365, literally round the clock on FedNow and RTP systems. We're in a fundamentally different place, and our customers, I think, are really growing as a result of the capabilities that are available. And I think we feel great optimism as we head into the year.